Hello, it's Mike, NoStressMike.com, and I want to tell you a little bit about my mama. And one of the things that I don't do well on is when people say, "Well, when I was a kid, I was abused. When I was a kid, they did this. I was, and all this kind of stuff." And now they're old, and their lives are screwed up. They make bad choices. They continue making bad choices, and they blame it on when they were a child. And this is one of the reasons why you hear me talk so much about personal responsibility, because however you are, you can change it. You can change your personality. You can change a lot of things. I'm not the same guy as I was when I was young, and this is why I want to talk about when I was a child. And the thing was, when you're a child, you're in your own little world, and you think everything is like that. And then again, I'm dyslexia, so I can't read. So I haven't been able to pick up books and read about other lives and different countries and how to do stuff and stuff like that. It doesn't make sense to me when I read it. And the thing was, I am half Chinese and half American. And the American is Choctaw Indian, Irish, and Welsh. And you can see every bit of it in my personality and the way I do things. And that's why I tell people the first place you start is in your genes. Start on who you are. Don't try to be somebody that you're not to start with, because because there's good things about every culture, and you take those good things and you learn these things, and then you can add to it by learning other things. Now, Rex, hey, Rex, she's getting ready. She's getting off. She's going to get out of my sight, and then she's going to do something weird. So that's why I like to keep her. Hey, Rex, come on. I like to keep her in my sight, kind of like a child. You don't want to let your child just go off and do whatever they're going to do. That's the way I was. Now, I did lose my mom when I was 4. She was killed. So I learned young, but I didn't realize it at the time. But they just said, well, she just died, and that's it. No explanation, no nothing. And through the years, I had to learn all this stuff. And it was here in Topeka. And so, in other words, violence happens everywhere. And I've traveled Central America, Mexico, United States, and Asia. And I have seen violence everywhere. I haven't seen no place with no violence. And one reason why I work out with different weapons and learn to protect myself, because I know if I don't take personal responsibility over my own well-being, I'll be limited. And I learned that a long time ago. And I say here in Topeka, Topeka was one of the last racial uh, divided places in the United States. Uh, Brown versus the Topeka Board of Education, that gives you an example. Uh, that was a big deal. It was an all-white school system, and then everybody that's not white goes in this other school system. I went in the all-white school system the whole time, and if I would have graduated, I would have been the first non-white to go completely through the Topeka school system, the white school system. It wasn't white. I quit, February of my senior year. But then you got to remember, I wasn't doing real good at that time either. I can't read, so it was making it very difficult. And then with the racial problems, having to deal with racial problems all the time, that made it even more difficult. And couldn't focus on school and stuff. And without a mom, make sure you do your homework and stuff like that. So I didn't do my homework. And like I say, I was on my bicycle. When I first got on my bicycle, that was it. That was freedom for me. I rode all around Topeka. And my dad worked, we had a restaurant, and my dad worked at the restaurant. He started about, 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and he got home about that same time. And so I was pretty independent. And I made a lot of mistakes, a lot. But I learned from my mistakes. And but one of the things was the blacks would be making trouble for me, and the whites would be making trouble for me. And I had to learn how to deal with not one person, but a group. And I learned early on running away didn't seem to work too good. They always say, it'd be real nice and all this stuff. And well, once I figured out, don't be nice, well, then everything changed. In other words, if you're going to victimize me, I can tell when you're going to victimize me. So then I don't want to be victimized. So then, hey, I put it into it real quick. And the thing was, it was tough, but I didn't think anything different. I mean, like I say, I was a little kid. I thought everybody's lives were as screwed up as mine. And then I was spoiled. Like I say, we had a restaurant. My dad, anytime I needed something, he'd, buy it for me. So I had everything that I wanted as a child. And it was funny. It all ended when I turned 18, and then I went into the Marines. And then, I hated the Marines. I wouldn't tell anybody that I was in the Marines. I was only in for a year and a half anyway. So it was okay. 18 months, 13 months of that was in the jungle. I was in combat in Vietnam during the 18 years old. And so then that left 5 months. And then there was training. And then from training, that's when I went to Vietnam. When I left Vietnam, I was out. They let me out. I didn't have enough time left for them to teach me something and have me do something different. And I wasn't going to re-up. I really hated it. The discipline was the thing that was really foreign to me. Taking personal responsibility. This was all things that didn't make sense to me. And so I didn't like it at all. And they made sure that I took personal responsibility. And when I got out, I just continued taking personal responsibility. And so it was no big deal. And that's why you hear me talking about that. And also, went through the training, And then before we went to Vietnam, they said, okay, you're trained, you're ready to go to war. Now, and in the Marines, you take orders. This is what you do. And they said, you're under no obligation to take an order that is unconstitutional or immoral. Hey, that sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? I mean, this is what I've lived my whole life on, constitutional and morals. And I push them both. It's a big thing. And now, since I've been traveling all over the world, I've learned without the Constitution, you really don't have much of a life. You're really limited. And this is where I found out, because I couldn't figure out why people seem to be really stupid in foreign countries. And only the highly educated and the successful ones have sense. Now, the successful ones aren't really, that doesn't mean they're highly educated. They've just been successful. Why were they successful? They took personal responsibility. And they made judgments, and they stood behind their judgments. Sometimes they made money, sometimes they didn't. Sometimes they did good, sometimes they didn't. Sometimes they go to jail. I mean, sometimes they didn't. I mean, it's a strange world out there. And, but that's, and as I traveled around and I see this, I see it everywhere in the world. And I've mentioned, United States was known to be a moral country. That no longer exists. And the reason I say that is, look at our leadership. Leadership is not moral at all. So many decisions are made political decisions. They don't make moral decisions. Look at the way they enforce laws. They don't enforce them morally. This is the law, then we go by the law. Sounds good. And in the old days, it's kind of the way they tried to do it like that. And now you see they've got political leaders, they have their laws. And then the police, they have their laws. And then as citizens, we have different laws. And then as illegals, they got different laws. So, laws mean little because laws aren't based on morals and they're not enforced across the board. They only enforce certain laws for certain people. And this is something we as Americans are going to have to face up. You're going to have to, and not only the violence, you have to face up the violence. And instead of that, well, please protect me. Government, protect me. Well, neither one is going to happen. You have to protect yourself. You have to take care of yourself financially and even physically. Look at the health. Try to look for somebody to take care of you health-wise. No, they don't. Doctors run on dollars. They don't really care what happens to you. My wife, she was killed. And her mother was killed. And, as long as everybody got their money, no big deal. Okay, that happens here in the United States. It happens all the time. This virus thing, they're using the virus as a political tool, not anything to do with what's morally right and the health of the people. It has nothing to do with any of that. So that's why I'm saying we are not in a moral country. So, but that doesn't mean we don't have to be moral, because, like I said, I get my strength from my morals, and I've used my morals. I think of something morally before I do whatever it is I'm going to do. And then, like I say, there's been times when I thought I was doing the morally right thing and I wasn't. And I got in trouble or something like that. Normally my wife was there to slap me upside the head and say, boy, you messed that up. think about it. Why'd you do it? And then, but once I started thinking about it morally, I made less and less mistakes. But I still am very active and doing things. And I've noticed people are hiding. They're doing nothing. It's funny, they talk about survival, and then they're prepping and all this kind of stuff. I guarantee y'all have a whole lot more stuff than I do. I don't have that much stuff, but I have the knowledge, and that's what makes up for a lot. And it's harder to cold cock me by, oh, well, how could you do this to me? I know you could do this stuff to me. And I know you're going to try to do things to me. So I've got to take steps to protect myself. And I don't look for it's somebody else's fault when things happen to me. And this is something you need to start thinking, and thinking hard on. This is a violent country. Our laws are not right, and they're not enforcing them correctly, and we are not dealing with moral people. So, and the Constitution, I mean, they're just ignoring the Constitution. And, to me, the Constitution protects them, the government, because the Constitution says what they can do and what they can't. So I look at that as, okay, if they're doing what they're supposed to do, I can't do anything about it. That's the Constitution. Now, but we have to take personal responsibility over ourselves, our loved ones. If you have children, you need to start teaching your children. Believe me, you can teach them better than the school can teach them. So whether you do home education, or you give them education after they get their schooling, you have to pay attention, because it's bad. It's bad now, and it's getting worse all the time. This is Mike, NoStressMike.com.